because people do want to do better. Not all people, obviously. Some people are dirtbags. But a lot of businesses do want to do better, but don't know how to start, don't know the kinds of questions they need to ask or can ask as well.
Guess what, Sarah?
What?
It's season 2.
Oh my God, it's 2024 and we're happy to be back.
Let's recap. This is Breaking the Binary, brought to you by Coded Diversity. We're your hosts, Arden, Jarrett.
And Sarah Frazer.
We're recording in Newcastle, Australia on the traditional lands of the Awabakal people. We acknowledge all First Nations Australians on whose traditional lands you are listening from. Thanks to our sponsors already on board this year, Nui Tech People, MGA Thermal and Frazer Tech.
Woohoo. Today we're getting chatty, updating you on what's happened since you last heard us in your ears. Ooh. And what our world takeover plans are for 2024.
We're also going to do our best to stay on topic too. In fact, we've been doing pretty great in the recordings we've already done so far. So just for anyone new, Sarah, how do you introduce yourself? Like, what is your highlights? What do you say when you first meet someone at a networking event?
It's a really hard one. When I saw top facts, I was like, I love facts. And then I read about yourself and I was like, oh no, I like that. I usually go with that I work at Newcastle's largest technology recruitment agency.
Mm-hmm.
And I do everything that isn't recruitment is how I would describe my job. It's very broad.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah. And I usually follow it up with I hate free time. So I have a bunch of other side projects such as being the chair of the /New conference and being on the board of the not-for-profit that we started, as well as doing all of this excellent stuff.
And what about outside of work hobbies?
Huge nerd.
List a few.
All of my hobbies could be described by the fact that I am, in fact, a huge nerd.
Checks out.
Yeah. So I'm a plant. I've got a little bit of a hyperfixation on plants, both inside and outside. So I have around 200 different kinds of indoor plants, all of which...
I feel like this has grown by about 100 since the first season.
It has, yeah, in a year, which is it's actually a slowing down of how many plants I got, because in the first season I'd been collecting them for about 3 months and I had 100. So we're a year on from that and I've only increased by another 100. So if you plot that on a graph,
wow,
you can tell that I've run out of flat surfaces at home to put plants on. I actually just set up something in my veranda so I can have more plants outside as well.
I love it.
Yeah. And then crafting, mostly polymer clay. I like to think I can crochet, but I'm not very patient. Reading really hyper-specific guidebooks.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for that.
Front to back cover of like encyclopedias.
People don't usually do that. I did read the Field Guide to Australian Spiders front to back.
Yeah.
Kind of when we were camping. I don't think you should read them.
Folks, you'll hear so many spider facts in the upcoming episodes.
Like, oh, cool, I'll just flick through, see what it's got for me. I was sucked right in. I was like, wow. By this time, everyone's switched off this episode.
Yeah, we'll keep it short and sharp.
All right, over to you, Arden. What do you do and what are you working on?
So I'm currently the marketing manager at MGA Thermal, who are a thermal energy storage for renewables.
That's hot.
Yeah, it is, literally. So we're focused on decarbonising the industrial heat sector, which is a really exciting place to be. And yeah, I've been there for 4 years, 5 years if you include being an intern with them. And yeah, that's been a fun journey. We started this group, Sarah, because I was the only woman there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's a really great space for other women who just in general, but also feel like they're maybe one of a few within their organisation so that they can connect with other women. What else do I do? Well, we do this, which we've already mentioned.
As people should probably know.
We'll also detail in what capacity later on in the episode. And I also have a lot of hobbies, So I am currently making a Renaissance costume
Yep.
because I went to Medieval Fair last year and people kept telling me my outfit was amazing and I should enter the costume competition. I was like, I forgot these were things. And
Also,
I didn't come here to win, but next year I will. And so I've spent a good 9 months already working on that costume. And
it is stunning.
Thank
It is
you.
absolutely gorgeous. As someone who has no patience for sewing, I am gobsmacked at how beautiful it is.
Thank you. Yeah, well, as the internet meme is saying at the moment, I don't know how I did it. I just did it. So where is this podcast at? So we started it because we thought it would be easy.
It's been super easy for me. So I never mentioned I do technically know how to edit, but I don't want to.
I was like, I'll learn. And then thankfully, Will helped us out. So shout out to Will who edits our podcasts.
We're slowly growing our little team, aren't we? Which is exciting.
We absolutely are. So the plans for this year in season 2 is, well, obviously launching season 2.
Ta-da!
You'll be listening to this episode a week before the next one comes out.
Maybe.
I say this like a question, but it's
Yeah.
my decision. So
A week before, depending on me scheduling it.
yes. So we want to launch into some of the new episodes pretty quickly and I'm really excited about them. So we've already recorded episodes with guests and some examples of those ones include mentors versus sponsorship, diversity as a strategy, and imposter syndrome or feeling like an imposter. Really excited about the conversations we've already had and I'm excited about the conversations that we will have. And our regular posting schedule for these episodes will be fortnightly because we have a lot of other things going on and it takes a lot of work.
I remember us first talking about the schedule and I was like monthly and you were like weekly. And then we looked at each other and we're like maybe fortnightly.
I was like, if it's monthly, that's only like 12 a year.
Yeah.
Which sounds a lot more doable. So what else?
Oh, write to us if you have any topics or questions that you'd like to have discussed. We'd really love to get a little bit more about what's valuable to the community to hear about. A lot of the guests that we've already had on have been from feedback from events that people have found really valuable. So we do take it on board. And we also kind of want to get like an Ask Dolly aspect to just ask us some questions.
That'd be cool.
No stupid questions
I
here.
feel like Ask Dolly might be a bit of a niche.
Yeah. It was a sealed section of a magazine typically marketed at young Australian teenagers where they could ask whatever questions they wanted. I hope half of them were fake because if they weren't,
maybe you won't
yikes.
ask us exactly the same category of questions.
Slightly different questions would be better, but
And maybe if we get a lot of them, Sarah and I will just riff on them.
Yeah. Ask me about mushrooms. I'll make something up that sounds right.
Oh dear. That's right. And also would love if you endorsed other women. So women tend to have this thing where we don't self-promote as much as a lot of men self-promote. And so please do your bit and believe in yourself, one, and promote yourself, but also promote other women. Because, there's a lot of really amazing women. You're probably all really amazing women who are listening.
And that's a good form of sponsorship, which we'll learn about in a later episode.
Yeah, the next one.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't remember what order we did them in, I'm going to be honest.
We've been busy. All right, so meetups. They're still going.
They are. They're still happening. We only took 2 months off in the holiday period on December and Jan.
Yep.
And then every month on the second Thursday.
That's correct. Yeah. So our meetups are monthly. And you can find all of the dates on our meetup.com page. And we also just want to make sure that everyone knows, no matter your gender, you can attend these meetups.
Yeah. So they are gender all-inclusive. We'd really love to get more gender representation at the events because hearing the stories of women and gender diverse people in tech is such an important tool for increasing people's awareness and just it has this halo effect of making people more aware of why diversity is important and how they can do better. So if you've got some free time, you want some free pizza and a sneaky drink or two of any kind, obviously we have everything from water to wine.
Have some sneaky glasses of
Yeah, get hydrated. Hashtag so hydrated. Come along and hear some great talks.
Yeah. That's it. We're promoting voices of women and gender diverse people in tech. We've already had some amazing topics and speakers this year. And what's our news about more upcoming events?
They're upcoming.
Sydney.
Oh,
right.
Sydney. Oh, right. I feel like if I had read the notes, I would know that. Oh, my God. Or OMG, says the notes.
I mean, you can say it however you like it, Sarah.
Good.
So what are the Sydney events, Sarah? Would you like to elaborate?
So they're like the Newcastle events, but they're in Sydney. We're trailing our first one later, closer to the midway point of the year.
Yeah.
I should know the date, but I don't. But we're really excited. So our other, I guess, key founder, Will, is from Sydney, and he's really taken an interest in expanding the good word of women and gender diverse people in technology to his local area as well. So it should be really great to run an event down there and just start creating community wherever we can. So everyone's welcome. If you're in Sydney at whatever date, it'll be online. Don't use me as a resource.
Yeah. Sarah will be there though.
Yeah.
I heard your commitment earlier.
Yeah, I will. I will be there. So whether that is a plus or a negative.
It's definitely a plus.
Take it.
I have overheard people when like you're introducing the speaker, they were like, "She's really cool." So you're really cool and funny.
Cool. So. Yes, I'm trying to work through negative self-talk, so I'm going to leave it at.
So I also just want to make sure that people get a bit more of a feel about our events. So pretty much always the Newcastle ones are held at Newy Tech People, unless we have more of a casual one or something else on that month. So also make sure to check the meetup page about that. But we have around 20 people, probably on average, probably a bit more than that on average, a mix of regulars and new attendees. And, you know, everyone's really open to hearing the story, looking at the information, what other resources are available. And we are open to more sponsors this year. And so if getting in front of that group of people is something that you would like to do for your organisation, come and chat to us, bearing in mind we have some DEI requirements for those organisations. And we'll touch on that a bit later as well. So our announcement for today, which you've probably already seen online, is that we launched a not-for-profit.
Yay!
And that's Coded Diversity, which you would have heard in the opening line.
It was meant to be Coded Inclusivity, but someone filled out the ASIC forms wrong.
That's a fun fact.
And that someone was me.
That's all good.
Sorry, ASIC, my bad.
So, Sarah, why did we do it?
I think we had a crackpot theory that what if our group wasn't needed? What if creating a support network for women to feel normal about being in tech, women and gender diverse people, like wasn't necessary because they just felt normal in their workplace as is? And that is a world that I am really passionate about and would really love to see. And I think and we love the group and we want to do more with it. And to do more with it, the next logical step felt like targeted business intervention. And this is what that not-for-profit lets us do, is get into businesses, get into the way workplaces work, and actually change some of the foundational structures to make them more accommodating and more sustainable for women and gender diverse people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've individually had people come and ask us, how can we make our organisation have more women or be more gender inclusive? And, you know, that's not really something that I can sum up in a sentence.
Yeah.
So it's more of a tailored experience for these companies.
Yeah.
And that's now something which we'll hopefully be able to provide.
Because people do want to do better. Not all people, obviously. Some people are dirtbags. But a lot of businesses do want to do better but don't know how to start, don't know the kinds of questions they need to ask or can ask as well. A lot of people are really hesitant to engage in it at all out of the fear of doing something wrong. So we just wanted to make it as accessible, as easy, as all of the good things, like as minimal work and money, which are sometimes barriers for businesses, as possible to make some really tangible differences.
Yes. And if you'd like more information on that, it's on our website, codeddiversity.org.
Yeah. Or hit us up on LinkedIn, Coded Diversity on LinkedIn. Also, our personal pages would be fine as well. I'm always happy to have a LinkedIn message, especially if it's about spider facts.
Yes. Or mushrooms.
Or mushrooms.
So we'll also be at /new.
Woohoo!
Sarah, what's /new?
Wow, /new is Newcastle's largest /grooviest /most fluoro technology conference.
Fluoro.
I don't know. It's Newcastle's only technology conference, which leaves us a lot of room for how we describe it.
Yeah.
Which I love, but it is a celebration of technology in Newcastle. I'm really excited to be one of the members organizing that. I'm the conference chair for this year. I was on board for our first one last year as well. We sold out with 350 people.
I was like, that's amazing.
We were blown
So
away.
good.
We set our flag at 200 and we sold 67 tickets in one day.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realized we needed to set an upper limit as well.
Yeah, wait, how many can we actually fit in the venue?
Yeah, that was the math we were doing kind of on the fly. But it was amazing. The main idea behind the conference is one, to establish, or I guess confirm, that Newcastle is in its own right a thriving tech hub, and people in Newcastle that are tech professionals don't need to rely on Sydney. It was also to throw open the doors of the occasionally insular tech community that we have here. So there is a thriving online community as well as a series of meetups, of which ours is a part.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, once you know it's there, super obvious, super easy to find other communities, meetups, whatever, but it's hard to find the front door. So the tech conference was one of our ways of throwing open the front door, saying, hey, if you're a tech professional, come on in, you're welcome here. We want you to be a part of this community if you'd like to be. And I feel like we hit on both of those goals last year, so I'm excited to see even more progress this year.
Awesome. Well, when are the dates?
The 15th and 16th of May, which is coming up really soon, and I don't feel stressed at all. I feel great about it.
And you and I will be there presenting on one of the days.
Yes. The best part about running a conference and also running a not-for-profit is that you can just make space for yourself. It's easy.
Very important topics, because what are we presenting?
We are presenting some really easy and accessible tips for our workplaces to improve the accessibility of like their organization for women and gender diverse people in tech.
Yeah.
So we have a third track this year, which is exciting. We only offered 2 tracks last year, so we've actually expanded out. And the idea behind the third track is to offer some really tangible take-homes that people can go to and have something that they can take to a business leader, or if they're a business leader themselves, put into action.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our goal for this session. So it'll be chatty, similar to this, but it'll also have some like really easy things anyone can do in their business, regardless of size, to make their business more diverse and more accessible.
Yeah.
Diverse and accessible are words I'm going to say a lot.
I think it's, we'll be aiming for multiple touch points in having an overview of like what can be done, but also having like deep things that your company can explore more.
Yeah.
Because there's very limited work we can actually do with the amount of time, but hopefully we can give you some things to think about.
Yep.
And some things to maybe engage coded diversity with.
Yeah, like here's some low-hanging fruit. If you want to reach the slightly higher hanging fruit, let us bring our ladder. I almost said umbrella. It's raining outside.
It's later in the day. All right. My next ask, I guess, is for sponsors this year. And I think there's a lot of benefit to being shown associated with coded diversity and women and gender diverse people in tech. So as I said, we regularly have over 20 women and gender diverse people at our meetups, and that's a great platform for your company. We have packages which involve speaking or podcast spots available, and we're flexible on that. So if you don't want to be on the podcast or you don't want someone to talk about your company's DEI practice on the podcast, that's perfectly fine. You don't need to. We can work with you. But we do look at the DEI materials from our sponsors to make sure that they are making active steps towards creating a diverse and inclusive workplace. And in the same way, if you're someone who's attending our events, you can have some assurance that we're looking into these sponsors and that they are actually good places for women or gender diverse people to see themselves in.
Yeah, because we didn't want to be an area where people could throw money at the problem rather than actually doing something about it.
Mm-hmm.
That frustrates me about a lot of organizations. And I feel like especially women in technology being such a hot topic at the moment, people tend to say, okay, well, I've thrown this money at this organization, therefore our business is good for women and gender diverse people. It's like, oh, okay, but what are you doing internally? Like, take a look internally. We love the support. We're absolutely passionate about it, but it's important for us to know that you're taking steps and you don't have to be perfect. No business is,
Yeah.
but do you at least have a plan in place and some awareness?
Yeah. I think even if you don't have a plan, if you come to us and you're like,
we'll help you make one.
it's coming from a good place of intention. If you, support coded diversity and you'd like us to help make a plan and in that way then become a sponsor of like our meetup or our podcast, that's amazing.
Yeah, we'd love that because that means that we get to help more businesses and the women and gender diverse people that work in them as well. Plus everyone, because more diverse workplaces, as we'll cover many times over in the next podcast, are better for all employees, not just the people in those diverse groups.
Yes, make it better for everyone. So this is a bit more of the unstructured section.
Oh, no.
I may ask you some questions which you may or may not be prepared for, Sarah.
Probably not. Let's assume no.
Do you have a favourite episode that we've already recorded?
Do you mean from season 1 or season 2?
Oh, either.
I'm going to be honest. What I was going to say earlier was I'm really excited to hear all of the episodes we've already recorded because my working memory is terrible and I've forgotten most of the stuff. So they're all my favorite would be what I would say.
Looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning what I had to say.
I love it.
Do you have a favorite episode?
Well, I think I also love things that are fresh. And we just recorded the episode with Annie about feeling like an imposter. And I think anytime I hear Annie speak, I get these little like take homes, which I love. And I got emotional in the episode, which is cool. I thought about mentioning that I was going to cry, but didn't. It was
You're allowed to have feelings?
Yeah.
I'd like that on the record.
And I want to normalize it.
Yeah.
You'll also find me normalizing in some episodes that I was going to say something and then I had everything just disappeared from my brain.
I get that.
Yeah. We're normalizing, forgetting what we were going to say. But yeah, so I really enjoyed that episode, but I enjoy a lot of the things that we talk about. I've enjoyed all of them. Yeah.
I think I have. Who knows? Not me. I think, and there's another question down here because I've read ahead. What have you already applied this year?
Yeah.
One of the episodes that we'll release was with Claire, and she talked about, I had mentioned that I felt like I wasn't appropriate for a certain role that I wanted because a man had told me that I wasn't professional enough. And that was really hard. And I really struggled against that. And she said, well, why did you let him set like the what is defined as being professional enough? Like, why is he setting what is and isn't appropriate for that role? And in this context, it was right. There is no reason that he should have created that framework.
Yeah.
And I've compared myself against this invisible standard that didn't need to be there.
His invisible standard.
Yeah. And it was really good, like eye-opening.
Yeah.
Like it changed my whole worldview. Like, oh, you're right. There is no reason that I need to live up to this invisible standard that doesn't really make sense and doesn't have any grounds. It's just what he's used to. And that's not how it has to be. And that was a really good learning for me. And I've taken that away and it's completely transformed how I've been looking at the situation. But it's those kind of like shocks you to the core, like, oh no, I have been thinking about this really not quite right.
I love it. I think this podcast, particularly this year, I found speaking on topics has been really great for like a professional development, at least for
Yeah.
me, and really great for building like meaningful connections with women in leadership and women in tech. One of the things I've taken away already is coaching.
Yeah.
So actually finding and building out like my support networks like professionally, and that just from my interactions with the guests that women really want to support other women, especially, you know, women who are younger and entering what they've been through.
Yeah.
Really, really good, and really, really love the connection with people.
Yeah. I guess that kind of falls in line with the sponsorship chat that we had as well.
Yes.
And even it being highlighted that sometimes putting people forward for speaking spots, like I've had a big focus on getting the diversity of the slash new lineup up to a minimum standard. And that minimum standard is always a hard one. We've set it at the proportion of women that work in the technology industry in Australia. And it's always a hard line to decide what percentage you set. I basically made the decision that I didn't want women to have to take on the burden of presenting heaps because there aren't enough women in the field, because I know that's also like a taking a lot of the diversity load.
Yeah.
So that was where our line was, and I put forward a bunch of amazing women because I thought, you know, they have a lot to talk about. I know they'll be really interesting. I know they'll do a great job, but I'm not sure that they'll submit something themselves in the expression of interest. And it was highlighted that that was sponsorship, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is something that's I'm in a position to do and feel comfortable doing. And I'm really happy to be able to support women in these ways of just highlighting that they are super qualified and amazing for these opportunities
Yeah.
that they might not necessarily envision for themselves or even think about doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've taken that away, and that lens of like, what can I help people do? Obviously, if they want to, you can't just force someone to be like, you're doing a presentation now. Like, it's very much about understanding their comfort level as well, but finding more opportunities to support women in that way.
But
has
it
been
makes
really,
so much difference if someone's like, you'd be great at this. And like, I think a lot of people may not have even had that said before, or, you know, have the self-assuredness to like apply themselves.
yeah,
So great. Amazing. I love your work, Sarah.
I try. Oh, do you have any other goals this year? Work or life related? Do you?
Oh, both. I know I wrote this, but I only thought about one aspect of that. So I was thinking about the life aspect. And you'll hear in the imposter episode that it's really great to lean into our differences.
Mhm.
And I think I've been on a whole another journey, because it never ends, right? About learning more about myself and who I am, and learning into what really makes me comfortable and who I am, because it never stops.
It unfortunately never does. Or fortunately, because you're not static.
Yeah. And I think just like allowing myself to actually think the thoughts and feel the feelings that I've always sort of been like, even if it's one where I know it's okay to feel sad about something, but I've been like, no, but that happened because of this, and I don't like need to, it's kind of useless too. But I can just accept that I felt that.
Yeah. Your
And-
feelings don't need an explanation, which is tough if you're like very logically driven.
Telling me, Sarah. Yes, I am logically driven.
But you can sit in it, and there's a lot of value in that. I say, even though I am terrible at sitting with discomfort, and that's one of the things I'm also working on.
Yeah. I'm also trying to focus on my health and getting my energy back after having glandular fever last year, and going through very stressful times. I also am aiming to say I'm on the podcast less. Sorry about that.
Say a replacement word. Frogs.
Frogs. Frogs is now my thinking word, everyone.
Yeah. Or make a frog noise like,
I love how I was like, we'll re-record this so it's less chaotic.
The problem is still me, and I am
No.
still here. So
No. What are your goals this year, Sarah?
I feel like when we first recorded this episode, my answer was maybe slightly different. I've realized recently that, and this might be shocking, but probably not shocking for anyone that knows me, that I may have either, and I don't know when to call it, but I may have burnt myself out.
What?
I know, crazy. It turns out having no free time and taking no rest and feeling like anxiously driven to deliver doesn't work out as a long-term strategy. So what I'm focusing on now is actually taking stock of what it is that I enjoy, what I get energy out of, what I'm doing because I feel like I have to do it, and also some really clear boundary setting. And I know boundaries are a bit of a like a hit word, like you need to set your boundaries. And one of the important things I've learned about boundaries is like, one, knowing where your comfort level is important. Two, you don't necessarily have to tell other people where your boundaries are, but you do have to have a clear idea of what you're going to do if your boundaries are crossed. So it's not, here's my boundary, you can't cross that, you have to do as I say, because that's just a rule. It's a, if you act in a certain way, I will remove myself from the situation. That's a boundary affirming action that I'm going to take for myself, and I'm going to go elsewhere. Um, and when you are coming from a place of very little to no boundaries, which I am, setting up those fences is really hard and really exhausting. And I think that's one of the things that led me to some of the feelings of burnout, because I'm trying to set up fences, but there are people still inside. And I'm like, oh, sorry, actually, I know traditionally you've been allowed to tread these paths, but I don't like that. And I don't think I ever have. So I'm going to need you to just shuffle out. Like, here's the new normal for our relationship. And that's been a lot of work, and it's been really tough. But we're coming to starting to, like, people are, I feel like there's a point now that it's starting to pay off. Like, those boundaries are becoming more clear. I'm getting better at practicing them and some more self-care, and also just not taking as much, and this is going to be a swear word, so I'm going to not say it, not taking the stuff that I don't have to take on, like being able to advocate for myself better, being able to call out behavior that is unacceptable as it happens as well, and not doubting my own experience, because I have learned in the tech industry, everyone else will doubt your experience for you. So if you are at least clear on how you feel and that your feelings are valid, and that's easier said than done, and also not a good piece of advice, just be sure. That is really helpful in being able to say, okay, I know you don't understand what it's like to be a woman in the workplace. Totally get that. Not your fault, but it is your responsibility to not be, I don't know what to say that's not a swear word, a butt.
I think I recently put some boundaries, like, as well. I've sort of gone through a similar thing, and when I was doing that, after I'd done it, I thought my feelings are the most important thing to me, as in you should respect your own feelings before someone else's.
Yeah.
So don't be like, but I might upset them by telling them that they upset me.
Yeah.
You know?
And if people do get upset because you've communicated how something they've done has hurt you, that's not on you. That's on them.
Yeah. You're showing that you respect and care about the relationship or the friendship by communicating how you've been hurt or a boundary.
Yeah.
Because if you just continue to let someone else, step across a boundary, that just builds your own feelings, which are unhappy and uncomfortable, which means that you don't like the friendship or relationship as much anymore. So, if someone does communicate boundaries, it's just because they want to keep the friendship going.
Yeah, like calling someone out when they've done something to hurt you or that they found was disrespectful is actually really hard. And it's a place of a lot of vulnerability. And that's absolutely your opportunity to, one, acknowledge their feelings, which feels like really easy. But I have learned like people often trip up on step number 1. Step number 1, acknowledge their feelings. Step number 2, don't make it about yourself. Step number 3, take it on board, you know?
Or don't. We
Or
also
don't.
discuss this.
Yeah, like that's fine.
But have some self-reflection.
Yeah, have some self-reflection as to
see
how
if anything needs to change.
And it's one of the things I've had to, I guess, work through is that I used to think if I could understand a behavior, I could accept it. I understand why they said that thing to me. They've had a bad day. Or I understand why they've said that thing. They never learnt better. Therefore, it's okay. It's like, actually, I acknowledge why they did that, but that doesn't mean I deem that behavior acceptable. And that's been a big shift as well. Because I'm like, I'm just going to over-intellectualize it until it turns to dust. And that's not a long-term strategy, everybody. I have tested it out.
So let us know if you want to branch off podcasts. It's called Lessons from Therapy with Sarah and Arden, because we've both had a fair amount of therapy.
Yeah. I always, and I shouldn't, but I feel like I've won when I make my therapist laugh at something
like, yes,
like kind of outrageous that I've done. I'm like,
I see. I always love when my therapist will be like, I love working with you. And I'm like, yes, I'm the favorite. I'm not.
I'm just A+ at therapy.
All right. So we need to wrap up.
We do.
You'll find our website, codediversity.org, LinkedIn, Meetup Group, and Instagram in the description. Please follow us on all platforms to stay up to date and support our community. Help us grow, share everything that we share, like everything that we post, all that sort of good stuff. Don't forget to leave us a good review. Emphasis on good, please. We don't take negative feedback without any actionable items well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even think of the word. Constructive.
Yeah, make it constructive.
Is fine.
Thank you.
If you tell me to change my voice, I'm sorry. I can't.
It's not happening. Recommend this podcast to your friends and share it online to help build the community.
Yay.
And we have a tradition in this season of the podcast, and that's Sarah ending the episode with a random fact. So do you have one prepared, Sarah?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. Yes. All of the other facts are probably going to be better than this one, but I just think it's worth pointing out how heavy clouds are. Clouds are so heavy.
They're like you blow my mind every single time you have
like
a
a
fact.
million tons is often the weight of a cloud. Like it's
How?
crazy. They have a volume of around 1 kilometer cubed, and the density of the cloud is around 1 kilo per cubed meter, which is just crazy.
Okay.
And they're so heavy and they're just up in the sky, which makes total sense if you understand the physics. But I have a chemistry degree, so I'm
like, I kind of get it. Water's really heavy when it's raining, like, it feels heavy, right? But like just to have the cloud floating in the air.
The weight, it's because it's actually slightly less dense than the air surrounding it. Like the water, as it coalesces into a cloud, is slightly less dense than the air, which keeps it afloat. Yeah. And the water vapor, I've probably not used that, gaseous water, I don't know, I'm angry earth scientists. It can only come out when there's a solid particle to coalesce around. I just think, wild.
Amazing. Well, that's it, folks.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I never thought of a fun fact.
That was what you got your computer out for.
Yeah, but I forgot because I have spaghetti noodles for your brain.
Will just remixes it for the ending.
Fun fact.
Release a track, make millions because I have spaghetti noodles for your brain.